Phil Spencer discusses mobile gaming, Call of Duty, and Project Keystone. It's been a wild week with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, with all of the drama that is going on with the EU and that member of the EU who came out and did the My PlayStation tweet. I discussed this in a video. I don't know if I conveyed my message very clearly as to what I think about it, but in my opinion, I don't believe that there is some deep-seated corruption at the EU where this tweet is meaning that he knows what is going on with the deal and that the deal is going to get blocked because he's pretty much already revealed how they're going to be judging it. I personally believe it was a terrible tweet, brings bad optics, and just creates a lot of doubt in people's mind as to how much good faith the EU has in terms of actually looking at the facts and looking at what has been going on within the industry to determine whether this deal should pass or not, and if they are actually looking out for the best interests of the consumers. Like I said, I do believe that they are going to look at the facts and they're going to make a decision based off of that. But we'll wait and see. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. And now we have Phil Spencer talking about Call of Duty and talking about mobile gaming and the real reason why he wants this deal to go through. So Phil Spencer was on an interview at The Verge, and it is called the Decoder Podcast, and he said a lot of stuff. One of the main things that I've talked about previously that everyone keeps focusing on is Call of Duty. But we know the biggest reason why Xbox wants this deal to pass is because of mobile gaming. And Phil Spencer talks about this. He talks about the consoles, and particularly says here, the idea that Activision is all about Call of Duty on console is a construct that might get created by our console competitor. Now, he doesn't specifically mention PlayStation, but he obviously is referring to them because he then goes on and says, I haven't heard Nintendo has been sending in any complaints about the deal. Now, it's a great point because when you think about Call of Duty, the idea that this deal is all about Call of Duty in terms of what we've been talking about on Twitter, in terms of what the media has been talking about, all of this has actually been strategically created by Sony and by PlayStation and by Jim Ryan. And honestly, they've done a very good job of keeping Call of Duty in the mind of everybody when talking about this deal. Because the only company here that has a lot to lose is PlayStation, by them losing Call of Duty. For Xbox, for them keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation isn't a bad thing whatsoever. In fact, they're probably going to be making more money by doing that. So they probably actually have no care about keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation. What they will want to do, I'm assuming, is put Call of Duty into Xbox Game Pass on day one, which is going to bring consumers over to the service. And I feel like that's another point of contention that PlayStation is trying to block. But their arguments against Xbox and against Microsoft with the whole Call of Duty thing is extremely weak. We've seen Saudi Arabia and we've seen Brazil already approve this deal without any restrictions. And now the CMA and the EU are in phase 2 doing their investigations. And we will wait and see what they come to. But if history plays a role in any of this, we can take a good estimated guess that after everything has been seen, that the deal will be approved without any restrictions, but you never know. Maybe something will happen and maybe they decide to block it. Maybe they put certain restrictions that stops Xbox from doing some of the things that they want to do with Call of Duty. In fact, we have this clip here from the podcast where Phil Spencer again reiterates the intentions of Xbox and Call of Duty. You can kind of sense a little bit of frustration that he has to continuously say this, but let's take a listen.
We think Call of Duty will be on PlayStation as long as players want to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. And that's not a competitive threat against PlayStation. That's just a pragmatic way of looking at it.
This brings me back to game streaming, right? Because one way you could get Call of Duty on PlayStation.
Native Call of Duty on PlayStation, not linked to them having to carry Game Pass. If they want a streaming version of Call of Duty on we could do that as well, just like we do on our own consoles. There's nothing behind my back. Okay. It is the Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, doing great on PlayStation, doing great on Xbox, the next game, the next game, like native on the platform, not having to subscribe to Game Pass. Sony does not have to take Game Pass on their platform to make that happen. There's nothing hidden. We want to continue to ship Call of Duty on PlayStation without any kind of weird, I figured out the gotcha.
Someone has sent you the digest of angry tweets about this. I can tell that you're like ready to fight with the people.
So there you have it. You can tell his frustration. You can tell he's fed up with hearing all of the deception and lies going around that Xbox is trying to do something under the table to make sure Call of Duty isn't on PlayStation later on once this deal passes. It's clearly not happening. They've said it so many times, and it's actually crazy that he has to continuously say the same thing over and over again to make the point. But when it comes to, I guess, the regulators looking into this deal, it's a $70 billion deal. They're going to do their due diligence in seeing how this will affect the market. And that's why I personally believe it's going into phase 2. That, and they don't understand the video game industry. So by doing these investigations, they're going to learn more, and they're going to see all the stuff that PlayStation does that is anti-consumer. But next on, he talks here about mobile gaming. Mobile gaming is a huge segment. It's the biggest segment. It's where all the money is made because everybody has a phone. They don't need to push out more hardware. They literally just put out an app, update that app, and everyone has access to it. Android, iPhone, all that type of stuff. And he says here that console and PC revenues have remained relatively flat compared to mobile. And he says, I don't think anybody needs that quote from us to understand how irrelevant we are in mobile. Anybody who picks up their phone and decides to play a game would see that on their own. And they're really trying to move on to mobile with cloud gaming. But in terms of native games, yeah, they are irrelevant. And I think this deal is going to really help them with games like Candy Crush, Diablo Immortal, Call of Duty mobile games that you download directly onto your phone. He continues on here and says, and PC as well, our trials and tribulations over the last 5-6 years in PC gaming are well kind of documented, and we continue to work at it. And I love the work that the Xbox app team has been on, and our PC studio is doing great work on PC, but it takes time. In terms of the Activision opportunity, and I keep saying this over and over, and it is true, it definitely starts with a view that people want to play games on every device that they have. And in a funny way, the smallest screen that we play on is actually the biggest screen when you think about the install base on the phone. That's just a place where if we don't gain relevancy as a gaming brand, we're not alone in seeing this. Over time, the business will become kind of untenable for any of us. If we're not able to find customers on phones, on any screen that someone wants to play on, you really are going to get segmented to a niche part of gaming that running a global business will become very challenging. Now, that last paragraph there, he talked about an extremely interesting point, a point that I completely agree with. Spreading out your ecosystem to multiple devices is going to be the way that you're going to have to go forward in the future to be able to continue to compete. And it really, I think in my mind, highlights the panic that PlayStation is under right now with this deal. I honestly think PlayStation is really looking at Call of Duty because they know that's a sticking point that everybody knows. They can easily show how much money it can make. But when it comes to the grand scheme of things, PlayStation is looking at this deal as if it goes through, they are even further behind than they currently are when it comes to expanding out that ecosystem to as many people as possible to be able to be a continuous global leader in video games. PlayStation is doing great now, and they are continuing with their strategy of locking games to PS5, pushing the console, but that's going away. I said this before, their first-party games are going to end up on PC day and date at some point. Their first-party games are going to have to expand out to more devices if they want to continue to compete at the high level that they are competing at right now in terms of being a global brand, a global leader, where everybody is playing your games no matter where they are, no matter what device that they are on. Xbox is thinking, I think, like 10 years into the future, and we are seeing it play out right now with their ecosystem, with Game Pass, with cloud gaming, and now with this acquisition. They get Candy Crush, they get Call of Duty mobile, they get Diablo Immortal, they get all of the other mobile stuff that is going to be coming out from these studios. It's going to be a huge advantage going forward for Xbox. And I think PlayStation is looking at this and they know they are going to have to step up their game. We are already seeing them expand out PlayStation PC and trying to work on more mobile games. And obviously with the actual TVs and movie side of things with their IPs. But Xbox is also doing that. Keep in mind all of the Xbox TVs and movies that are coming out. Fallout, Gears of War, Halo's come out. I think Grounded is also getting a TV show. So they're all doing the same similar things. But right now, there's a big switch, and I think Xbox is going to be ahead of PlayStation with all of the stuff they have been working on over the years. Now he continues on here, comments on the console business, something that I don't think is a surprise to anybody, but he says as a percent of the overall gaming business, the console business is shrinking because the overall business is growing and console stays relatively flat as a business. Same thing with PC. And then when you look at the largest gaming companies out there, Tencent being the biggest gaming company in the world, so much of their revenue comes from mobile. And then they put their business success that they've earned through the work that they've done into the market, acquiring other studios at a very fast rate. That puts a lot of us out there who are maybe traditionally segmented to one screen and one device in a position of, okay, if you play this out over 10 years, if console itself is not going to grow and PC will grow in certain years and not other years, and mobile continues to grow, how do you continue to run the business and stay competitive with others that are out there either acquiring talent, building new business models, new distribution, building new franchises. It's critical that if you're trying to run an at-scale global business, that you meet your customers where they want to play, and more mobile is a place people want to play. So I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Again, he talks about 10 years, over 10 years, growing and expanding the video game industry for Xbox over the next 10 years. And this is going to be such a huge thing for them, is to get onto as many devices as possible, not taking away devices, but just opening up that access. So no matter where you're playing, you're going to be able to access Xbox. And we are going to see that play out over the next 10 years. And again, this is why Xbox has a huge advantage going forward, because they've already started down this path. They've already put it into the consumers' minds that Xbox is available anywhere that you want to play it. Whereas on the PlayStation side of things, they're slowly moving there. But when they really make that big leap into putting PlayStation everywhere, I think there will be a ton of pushback from their fans. I mean, you can see some of the reactions that PlayStation gets when they take their first-party PlayStation games and put them onto PC. There's negativity towards it, but it's what they are going to have to do if they want to be able to continue to compete 10, 20 years down the road. Now, the interviewer asks about the acquisition and says this is actually the Candy Crush company, not the Call of Duty one. And Phil Spencer responds, absolutely. And in addition, the number that's not in the Candy Crush King number is Call of Duty Mobile and Diablo Mobile, which are big franchises that exist in the Activision bucket and the Blizzard bucket that are also major players on phones. And then he talks about the customer and where customers come from. Where does Activision Blizzard make the most money? And he says, if you look at the totality of what Activision Blizzard King does, where their customers come from, where they make the money, it's the same reason that Take-Two looked at Zynga and said, we've got to build out our mobile capability. I'd say Activision Blizzard King did a better job of doing that earlier, definitely better than we did. And they're now in a position where they've got great PC franchises, great console franchises, and great mobile. For us, the real differentiation that they add to us is their mobile capability. Building on Activision Blizzard's existing communities of gamers, Xbox will seek to scale the Xbox Store to mobile, attracting gamers to a new mobile platform. Shifting consumers away from the Google Play Store and App Store on mobile devices will, however, require a major shift in consumer behavior. Microsoft hopes that by offering well-known and popular content, gamers will be more inclined to try something new. So there you have it on the mobile front of things. That's their goal with this Activision Blizzard acquisition. Mobile gaming, more so than Call of Duty, which seems to be the franchise that is continuously in the limelight, that everybody is always focusing on. And I agree with Phil Spencer. It's a construct created by PlayStation. The future will be interesting if Xbox goes out and makes their own mobile app where you're going to get access to natively download all of their mobile games. I think we're going to be getting a ton of mobile games from all of the Xbox game studios. They make a ton of money off of those 3 games already that he mentioned, but I'm sure they're going to expand it out to more IPs that they have. Now, the other thing Phil Spencer talks about here is Project Keystone. That's that streaming console, and that's something that we've seen kind of leaked on the back of Phil Spencer's desk. We have more information about exactly what this thing is going to entail. This comes via Tom Warren on Twitter, and it says here, Keystone. It's more expensive than we wanted it to be when we actually built it out with the hardware that we had inside. We decided to focus that team's effort on delivering the smart TV streaming app. It was really just a direction. Okay, we're going to focus our effort on our partnership with Samsung and where the app might continue to show up in different places over time. With Keystone, we're still focused on it and watching when we can get the right cost. When you have a Series S at $299 and during the holidays, you might see some price promotions, and you obviously have a Series X at higher. I think in order for a streaming only box to make sense, the price delta to S has to be pretty significant. I want to be able to include a controller in it when we go and do that. It was really just about whether we could build the right product at the right price, or if we couldn't, how could we focus the team's effort? We decided to go to the TV app with Samsung, and we're really happy with the results. So a very interesting point there. I mean, it seems like Keystone essentially was created and it was done. They just couldn't get it at that right cost. And I agree with them that there has to be a big difference between the cost of Keystone and the cost of Series S. I'm thinking like $100 or something, $150, where it's something you walk into a store and it's a very impulse buy. You see it advertised of getting into Xbox with cloud gaming. You see all the stuff that's going to be available on it. And hey, it comes with a controller. Why not? It's almost a no-brainer. So that tells me it's going to be a couple of years, a year, maybe 2 before this thing comes out, until that production cost can really get to a point where they have no issues putting it out, and it's at a price point that people are going to walk in and want to pick it up without really even thinking too much about it. The other thing here is they went with that TV app for Samsung, and one of the reasons they're probably thinking on making Keystone is that that app is only right now on Samsung TVs, and they want to be able to get Xbox and Xbox Cloud Gaming to people everywhere with TVs, not just Samsung TVs, because you're definitely cutting off a large part of your market. I don't know if that app is going to always be with Samsung. I'm hoping that one day it does expand out to all the different manufacturers of TVs. But that's it for me, guys. What are your thoughts on all of these Phil Spencer comments about mobile gaming, Call of Duty, and PlayStation's construct of that as the reason why the acquisition is happening, and Project Keystone? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
We'll be right back.